Now, bulls are the bull run in the market, or bulls are the players who are expecting the market to increase, to show an upward swing, while bear is an operator who expects the market to fall, to show a downward trend. Now, these names, these nomenclatures have been derived from the hunting behavior of both the animals. While the bull pushes his victim high up in the air, a bear takes hold of the victim and pulls him down on the ground. And that is why a bull market is where the prices are rising, while a bearish market is where the prices are falling. Then again, it's not a single day event or single day movement that can state that this market is bearish or this market is bullish. Now, say for example, the Indian stock market has been showing an upswing over the past many days, but say yesterday there was a crash. So, a single day event cannot say, okay, today the prices have increased, so today the market is bullish, and tomorrow, if the prices fall, the market becomes bearish. No. When there is a minimum of 20% increase in the value of the market, which our market has shown in the month of January, then we can say the market has been bullish during this duration. And the same rule applies to the bearish market also, that there should be a fall by more than 20% over a specified time period. Only then can you say, okay, during this period the market was bearish. So single day movement cannot tell you the market term, whether it should be bullish or bearish. It is only over a period of time. If I talk about the current stock markets, then many experts are of the opinion that the Indian stock market is a bubble which is ready to crash. It is overvalued right now. So let's see, with the budget around the corner and what policies the government is releasing, what kind of waivers the government is giving to the middle class, that will set the recourse for the future movement of the market. Okay, so what drives bear and bull market? Obviously, the macro level factors, they have a direct impact on the behavior in the stock market. So, be it like I am giving you the example of announcement of budget or expectations from budget, or the economic survey coming up tomorrow. Okay, all this will have an impact on the market. Apart from that, the employment level, the inflation level, the interest movements, the forex reserves, each and every factor has a direct impact on the movement in the stock market. Now, if there is sudden instability or unemployment, which we have experienced in the last year due to lockdown, due to corona, many people lost their jobs. Now, if data related to such an event, such a development is released on a public platform, then that will directly have an impact on the stock market movement also. Again, if say for example IMF has upgraded the growth rate for the Indian economy for the fiscal year 21-22, so now this should have a positive impact, keeping all the other factors stable. Okay, but sometimes what happens, even the good news is countered by something worse which is announced in the economy. So then that is not showing you a direct impact in the market. But yes, positive developments related to the economy generally lead to an upward trend in the market, while negative sentiments will lead to a fall in the indices in the stock market. Now, how to predict bear and bull market? Now, as I told you, the macro level events will have an impact, but as such, there is no method of predicting a bear and bull market. It's just working on, say, instinct basis, sometimes prediction basis, forecast, but nothing is 100% certain. Sometimes even the best of news might not lead to the expected movement in the market. Okay, so with uncertainty increasing in the market, you cannot, with cent% accuracy, predict whether the market will be bearish or bullish in the future, as we cannot say what will be the giveaways in the budget. Though Nirmala Sitharaman has promised a budget like never before, but once the things come out in open, only can then we see what impact does it have on the stock market. Now, factors influencing the movement of stock markets. General factors, most of this we already know. The economic growth, like yesterday I am talking about IMF upgrading the GDP forecast for the Indian economy to how much? What has been the upgraded GDP expectation for Indian economy by IMF? Okay, so please check. And apart from,
3.2%.
want to say something?
3 point something, ma'am.
You're not
Oh,
audible. Just a second.
3 point something, ma'am.
3 point तो नहीं था बेटा. Was I audible during this time to all of you? Because my speaker
Yes,
here.
ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am,
So
it says 11.5% GDP.
11.5% is the prediction, and it is also expected that in 20 I'm sorry, in 20 to 23, further growth rate will be seen. And for the coming year also, India will be the only economy which will show a double digit growth. Okay, and the recovery of the economy has been faster than expected. So this should show positive signs in the stock market also. Okay, so that we'll see over the day how the stock market behaves, because yesterday there has been a major dip in the market. Okay, apart from that, the changes in the interest rates, say, with the change, with the developments in the monetary policy, rate change जब होता है, interest rates जब change होते हैं, उसका भी impact आता है stock market में. Like in the explanation it is given that if the interest rates at on general level in the economy fall, then it is better for the stock market, because people will start moving from traditional investment avenues to investment in the stock market. Apart from that, stability. Now, if the movement in the economy is quite normal, there are no shocks, there are no international shocks or national shocks, then that will lead to a stable run in the market. So, here it is mentioned, say, terrorist attack or prices of oil. Okay, if you go through the report that has been released yesterday, you'll see that the oil prices are expected to increase at least 20% in this year. So there are many things at this level which drive the market, the stock market, through their immediate or indirect impacts also. Then confidence and expectation, again, this is what this is the basis on which the market is actually running. What is your expectation with respect to the economy? How confident you are of your economy performing in the future? And last is bandwagon effect. Now, bandwagon effect is no certain explanation. People overreact to certain events. Okay, so say during the time of Corona, everyone knew that this fiscal will be seeing negative growth. But sometimes predictions like this lead to bigger repercussions in the stock market. Okay, or if I talk about the upswing which we have seen in the Corona times, then that is something which cannot be explained with certainty. That why on one end, when the economy is showing a negative growth, why are the stock markets moving up? Okay, we also have a presentation lined on this, so I think we'll discuss this in detail there. But bandwagon effect is that there's no certain explanation to overreaction to specific events. देन रिलेटेड मार्केट्स, अगर कमोडिटी मार्केट में कोई मूवमेंट है उसका इम्पैक्ट आएगा. इफ देयर इज मूवमेंट इन द फॉरेक्स मार्केट, your forex rates are fluctuating, then that also has an impact. Then PE ratio of a share will lead to movement in that share. Now, PE ratio, we did in the investment paper also that again, this ratio should be used very carefully because sometimes it can be misleading also. Then inflation, deflation, appreciation, depreciation of currency. These can be some other events which have a direct impact on the stock market. After this, we come to the role of a stockbroker. Now, who's a stockbroker? One of the main intermediaries in the market, intermediary between the buyer and the seller of stocks. Obviously, there are cases where brokers are buying and selling in their own name, but per se, the definition, we say that they are actually agents who are representing the buyers to the sellers in the stock market. Now, a stockbroker is not only an individual, but it can be an entity, a registered company also. If I talk about the Indian context right now, you have two major types of stockbrokers. One are the traditional brokers, which are also known as full service brokers, and then you have discount brokers. So, is anyone having any idea what is the meaning of a full service broker or what is the meaning of a discount broker?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am. I think we
Manvi.
did discuss it in the class too before. So,
Yeah.
a full service broker is when you provide them with everything. I guess, I mean, they put in the money wherever it is required, they sell the shares of they buy it on their own. But for the discounted stockbroker, they give you the suggestions and don't manage the shares on their own. They let you manage the shares on their own.
Okay, to a large extent, you are correct. The brokers who are, in case of full service broker, the onus of investment is on the broker. So they are providing you A to Z advisory services, which share to buy, which share to sell. So say here the investor is not that confident, the buyer is not that confident that he or she can run their portfolio on their own. So this is totally managed by the broker. Such a broker is known as full service broker. So HDFC Security, ICICI Direct, Kotak Securities, these are full service brokers. And then again, if someone is a full service broker, obviously they'll be charging you a high commission, high brokerage cost. On the other hand, in case of a discount broker, the onus of investment is on the buyer or the investor himself. Now, there is minimal interference by the broker. All the buying and selling is done as per the wish of the investor, and therefore they will be charging a very low commission or brokerage cost as compared to a full service broker. So Zerodha is a discount broker, or Pro Stocks discount broker. These are registered entities who give free advices, practical advices on certain aspects, but the ultimate decision of which security to buy or sell lies with the investor. Okay, apart from that, there are some other terms. Look, practically, we have two types of brokers in India, a full service or a discount broker. But there are certain terms which are related to stock brokers, which are used, which have been used traditionally. So we'll just discuss them. What is the meaning? First is floor broker. So a floor broker is one who is executing. This term was used for brokers who were entering into business on behalf of other brokers, and they were receiving some intermediate commission on the same. Then commission broker, another related term, brokers who are buying and selling securities on commission basis. Then there was a term used as jobber. Now this was somewhere around, if you have seen 1992 का जो हर्षद मेहता स्कैम था, उस टाइम पर जॉबर्स होते थे जो इंडिपेंडेंट ब्रोकर्स होते थे. Now their buying and selling influence the movement of the stock market also. So they dealt on the floor of stock exchange, and they dealt again in limited number of securities, but their buying pattern had an influence on the market also. Apart from that, there were Taravani Walas who had basically, today also we can see that there are certain brokers who have high net worth, and then their uh, buying or selling decisions influences the market also. Can you name a couple of brokers who are fit in the high net worth category? So there are famous names in the market whose purchase decisions guides many normal investors also. No response as usual. Okay, so say Jhunjhunwala or Rakesh Jhunjhunwala or Damani, these are a couple of brokers who have high net worth, and when they put in money in a stock, then that is at a very that the value of the transaction is very high, and that tends to influence the price movement in that stock. Apart from that, there were some other terms which were used: odd lot dealers, Again, this is something which does not exist right now because they dealt in odd lots. So if others were trading, say, in multiples of 100, they were, say, trading in multiples of 93, 94, something like that. Then Badliwala were brokers who were providing finances to the investors. Now this has changed to the term margin trading now, where the brokers offer margins to the investors who are short on funds, and then obviously they are charging interest on the funds which have been given and for the time duration for which the money has been lent. Then arbitrager as a term we still use in the market. It was for the brokers who were looking to make quick money through the price differences in different stock markets. Now, with online trading coming in, these discrepancies have been reduced to a large extent. Okay, apart from that, primary dealers, this term still exists. They are the brokers who deal only in the government securities, registered brokers. Coming to selection of a broker, you what parameters should be kept in mind, because especially in case of a full service broker, you are actually dependent on the broker completely to manage your portfolio. So you should be very clear as to what kind of past performance the broker has shown, what kind of financial expertise the broker has in the preferred area of your investment. So it can be capital market, can be commodity market or forex market. You should be very clear with the point that the broker should possess the necessary professional qualifications for that market also. Okay, now SEBI also lays guidelines for the brokers that they have to become members of either NSE or BSE. Then there is a minimum capital requirement. Okay, and then the deposit that has been specified needs to be kept in cash or near cash form with the stock exchange. Okay, next term which I was using is margin requirement. Now, margin requirement is how much of the total value of the transaction needs to be brought in by the investor himself. So, it is not always necessary that the entire funding of the transaction be done by the investor. There can be cases, especially when the investor is into multiple transactions, that there may be shortage of some funds, so that shortage can be filled in by the broker also. A margin requirement is the percentage of marginable securities that an investor must pay for with his or her own cash. So, this is the minimum percentage depending on the type of margin we are talking about, because we'll discuss in detail in theory as well as practical part also, that what kind of margins need to be brought in by the investor to enable him or her to trade in the market. So first let us see a simple example. So an investor is purchasing 1000 shares of a company at rupees 100. Now the value of this transaction becomes 1000 into 100, which gives you 1 lakh. Now for this purchase made on 1st January, by the next day the amount needs to be put in the trading account. Now, broker in turn will transfer this amount by third. All of you know that the ultimate settlement cycle is T plus 2 days. So by the third day, the transaction needs to be settled. Now, there may be a small chance that the investor is not able to bring in the complete amount of money. Now, some amount needs to be brought in by the investor. Only then will the broker work on the deal and might be forward some funds to the investor. Now, as an advance for buying the shares, investor is required to pay a portion of the total amount to the broker at the time of placing the order. This is a kind of surety which you are giving, security you are giving for the entire transaction. Now, this amount is collected by the stock exchange from the broker. Margin is levied on the seller also. Okay, the counterparty which is entering into the transaction, this is just done to make sure that these transactions are safe from the perspective of each party involved. Okay, so each party should take the buying or selling transaction seriously. That is the main motive of the margin requirement. Now, moving with the above example, say assume that the margin was 15%. Now, 15% as a percentage, we see this as a percentage of the total value of the transaction. So, it means 15% of 1 lakh rupees, 15,000 रुपए मार्जिन रिक्वायरमेंट थी जो इन्वेस्टर को देनी थी टू द ब्रोकर बिफोर एंटरिंग इनटू द buying deal. Now, suppose that the investor bought the shares at 11 a.m. on January 1, and by the end of the day, the share prices fall to rupees 25. अब 100 का शेयर आपने परचेज करा and due to some unforeseen event the price falls to 25 rupees by the end of the day. तो जो ट्रांजैक्शन आपने 1 लाख में करी अब उसकी वैल्यू सिर्फ 25,000 रह जाती है on the same day. So there is a notional loss of, okay, the price has fallen to 75, sorry, it has fallen by 25. So 1 lakh की value falls to 75,000. So there is a notional loss of 25,000 on that very day. Vice versa case can also be there that the prices increase from 100 to 125 on the same day. So there's a notional profit of rupees 25,000 there. But in either of the cases, it will not impact the margin requirement. और जो आपको इनिशियल 15,000 रुपए पे करने हैं, that is what matters. Whatever be the subsequent movement in the market, those amounts will not impact the margin requirement. Obviously, जब हम MTM करते हैं, marking to market, उन केसेस में ये notional profits और losses भी matter करते हैं. That also we will cover in the later stages. So there we'll discuss this notional profit, notional loss, but till this time you should be very clear that margin is a security to ensure that both the buying party and the selling party are serious about the transaction and will complete their obligation to perform in the contract. Okay, so we'll stop here. I'll take up the types of margins in tomorrow's class.